Hey guys, tonight we wander barefoot across the polished marble corridors of a 19th century Ottoman Hammam steam, curling around your ankles and curling your patience with its polite warmth. You probably won't survive this if you can't handle gently oppressive heat and towel etiquette. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments too, so I know where you're winding down. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step through an intricately carved wooden door, the echo of your sandals muted by thick stone thresholds. The air embraces you like a cozy blanket, heavy with rosewater mist and just a hint of smoky amber. Marble benches flank a central heated slab called the Gobek Tasha, glowing faintly under lattice windows that filter an afternoon sun. By the late 19th century, Istanbul alone counted over 60 public hammams, each pulsing with life and whispered secrets, mainstream fact. Imagine that dozens of these steamy palaces, each one a sanctuary from the dust of city streets. As you lift your robes, the soft hiss of hot water from brass spigots fills the chamber. You dip your tired feet into a basin scented with orange blossom petals. Steam instantly wraps around your calves, and you murmur a silent apology to your poor shoes back home. Don't worry, they'll survive without you for an hour or two. In some corners, patrons believed that a pinch of crushed beetle shell in their soap would grant them a radiant glow. An odd vanity treatment circulated among fringes of high society quirky tidbit. You give that notion a mental shrug and focus on the warmth. A telek, one of the specialized bath attendants, glides over the marble like a whisper, offering you a rough kismet made from goat's hair. Historians still argue whether these vigorous scrubs serve chiefly hygienic purposes or theatrical spectacle for the elite open scholarly debate. Either way, you slide into a gentle back and forth feeling, dead skin slough off in satisfying little clouds like peeling stickers off a vintage postcard. Above you, domes punctuated by star-shaped glass insets let shards of sunlight dance on wet floor tiles, making every step feel like you're wading through liquid gold. A marble fountain in the center drips rhythmically, plip, plop, plip, reminding you of piano keys in a lullaby. You almost whisper to it, "Hey, buddy, keep that beat. I'm trying to relax here." The scent here is a heady blend of amber rosewater and a trace of eucalyptus, an aromatic remix that some patrons swore cured alchemy-related headaches. Others claimed that anointing nostrils with lead-based coal soothed the eyes after long days of official paperwork. Let's call that a fringe remedy, best left in dusty archives. You take a slow breath, marveling at how centuries-old stone can still cradle such tender rituals. The room's temperature is regulated by a clever system of underground aqueducts feeding hot water into the Gobek Tasha and tile-lined channels. You feel the heat rising in waves warming muscles you didn't know existed. If you thought your shower at home was a workout, try holding a conversation here without succumbing to polite fainting. "I'm fine. You think just a bit toasty." The telic chuckles at your stoic expression, though you can't see it, only sense it in the tilt of his shoulder. Around you, conversations float, discussions about where to source the finest olive oil soap, debates over whether damask rose was truly superior to Bulgarian rosewater, and casual banter about what's for lunch. Historians still argue whether these scent debates were serious business or charming distractions from everyday grime, open scholarly debate. You lean in, catching a phrase about lentil stew, and suddenly you're hungry. Perfect, because nothing says relaxation like peckish contemplation. Steam drapes over every surface, turning edges soft and rounding corners, much like your own mind right now. You find yourself drifting toward the fountain, staring at the way droplets slide down smooth stone, pooling into miniature rivers. It's hypnotic, as if time here moves in slow motion. You wouldn't be surprised if the next thing you remembered was waking up later, revived, moisturized, and 2 kilos lighter, though probably slightly pruned from all this steam. In one quieter alcove, you notice a small niche containing earthenware jars labeled in elegant Ottoman script. You run a fingertip along one marked amber attar. A faint musk wafts out. You inhale so deeply you almost taste it. Legend says that a dab behind the earlobe could charm sultans, though take that with a grain of hammam salt. Your hair frizzes slightly in the humid haze, and you joke inwardly that you'll never manage your morning routine again. As you towel off at the edge of the private changing room, you can't help but feel a gentle sense of belonging. This place, with its steam and marble and ritual, has welcomed countless souls before you. From merchants weary of caravan dust to dignitaries craving polite gossip. You pat your robes dry, ready to glide to the next chamber, heart calm and senses tingling. And with that you drift forward, eager to uncover the next layer of this centuries-old tradition. You drift away from the warm glow of the Gobek Tasha, guided by flickering brass lanterns along a gentle corridor of marble arches. Above, a series of domes rise in graceful succession, each crowned with star-shaped glass oculi that scatter sunlight like lazy fireflies. This architectural flourish dates back to the 15th century, when Sultan Mehmed II commissioned his first public hammam near the Golden Horn, part of his grand vision to remake Constantinople as the Ottoman capital mainstream fact. In your present state of half-conscious wonder, you can almost hear the hiss of 500-year-old steam still echoing in these stones. The walls here are sheathed in alternating bands of white and rosy red marble quarried from Proconnesus. You press your palm against the cool surface, feeling the faint ridges left by master stonemasons who carved each block by hand. In one smooth groove, you spot a tiny drill hole, perhaps a fixture for an oil lamp long since vanished. Historians still argue whether these domes evolved primarily to manage condensation or merely to dazzle visitors with celestial geometry. Open, scholarly debate. Either way, the effect is hypnotic. Every drop of water crescendos into a delicate patter overhead before sliding in quiet rivulets down the curvature. Golden sunlight filters through those glass stars, transforming steam into a muted rainbow that shimmers above your head. You inhale the softened glow, recalling the crushed beetle shell vanity treatments you passed on earlier. This place trades physical glow for an ethereal one. Ahead, a niche carved into the wall holds a small fountain. You tip your head to the side and listen. The drip of water echoes like a heartbeat, slow and steady. It's as if the hammam itself is alive, breathing in warmth and exhaling calm. As you wander, you notice slender marble columns supporting horseshoe arches etched with intricate arabesques. Each vine-like tendril loops into a perfect symmetry, revealing the Ottoman love of geometric pattern. A fringe practice once saw patrons clipping tiny paper patterns onto their robes before the steam session to collect moisture for good luck, an odd superstition that survived in whispers among rural bathhouses. Quirky tidbit. You tuck that away as mental trivia, letting it float behind you like a soap bubble. The corridor opens into a sunlit atrium, lined with marble benches and low latticed windows. You step into this cooler antechamber, a place to rest between steam cycles. Ottoman hammams traditionally included multiple temperature zones, each with its own name: sokluk for the cool room, sachakluk for the hot room, and halvat for private cubicles. You sink onto a bench, feeling the marbles chill seeping into your robes. Here, gossip and politicking once flourished as freely as the steamed local merchants and imperial courtiers traded secrets over bowls of sour cherry sherbet. Historians still argue whether these interludes were central social theaters or mere byproducts of bathhouse design. Open scholarly debate. Looking up, you catch sight of a small skylight framed in copper, its edges darkened by centuries of smoke. Through the lattice, you glimpse a patch of blue sky overhead, an unexpected portal to the outdoors. You lean forward, letting a stray sunbeam land on your shoulder, instantly warming your skin. It's a reminder that these baths were not just about cleanliness, but also about connecting the human body to the elements earth, water, fire, and air. You rise and move toward a grand marble portal carved with calligraphic inscriptions. The script praises the hammam's founder and invokes blessings upon each visitor, a poetic testament to the cultural and spiritual significance of public bathing. You trace the letters with a fingertip, imagining them as echoes of prayers uttered centuries ago. Nearby, a small niche holds an incense burner, its wrought ironwork twisted into floral scrolls. Occasionally, attendants would light frankincense or sandalwood here, believing that aromatic smoke purified the air and perhaps the soul. If you squint at the more mystical accounts, quirky tidbit. Stepping past the inscriptions, you enter the central hall where the master architect's vision truly unfolds. 4 massive columns rise from polished floors, supporting a larger central dome almost 10 meters across. The entire dome is double-shelled, an ingenious design said to prevent pooling condensation and diffuse heat evenly. Scholars still debate whether this technique was borrowed from Byzantine bathhouses or emerged through Ottoman innovation. Open scholarly debate. Whatever the origin, you feel the comfort of that, even warmth settling into your shoulders. Beneath the dome, the floor is slightly concave with slender channels leading water toward hidden drains. Each step you take sends tiny rivulets skittering underfoot, producing a soft, whispering soundtrack. Look down, and you'll see the mosaic pattern formed by tiny tesserae in cream turquoise and emerald green. These tiny tiles create interlocking stars and polygon symbols of cosmic harmony mirrored in the heavens above. You kneel briefly to admire the craftsmanship, and for a moment you're convinced that these patterns hold some secret geometry, an astral map lost to time. A brass basin studded with sunflower motifs stands sentinel at the center of the hall. You dip your cupped hands into its clear water and let droplets spill down your arms. The basin dates back to the same century as the dome, its spout, featuring the noble profile of a sultan carved in relief. Rinsing your face, you note how the marble walls reflect your visage in soft focus, an accidental vanity mirror that encourages introspection rather than showmanship. As you move away from the central hall, a cool breeze sweeps through a side entrance, hinting at private outdoor gardens once attached to this complex. Some hammams featured hidden courtyards with fruit trees and trickling fountains, a sanctuary within a sanctuary. A fringe account once claimed that bathers would sneak outside at dusk to pluck apricots straight from the branch's juice running down their chin's quirky tidbit. You tuck that mischievous image away smiling at the thought of a 19th century late-night fruit heist. Before you step onward, you pause in a hallway lined with wall-mounted brass lamps. Their holders are shaped like tulip buds, an Ottoman favorite motif. A stray ember of thought drifts in once these lamps were filled, not with olive oil, but with goat fat, a smelly practice that quickly fell out of favor. Quirky tidbit. You're relieved the historians don't still argue over that one. Taking a deep breath, you prepare to enter the next chamber, warmed by both heritage and heart. The weight of centuries settles on your shoulders like a well-worn shawl, comfortable and familiar. As you leave this architectural testament, behind the marble whispers its farewell. You press your palm one last time to the archway, feeling the cool stone recede in your memory, and step forward into the ongoing ritual senses, primed for the next layer of this gently unfolding ceremony. You step over the threshold into a narrower vestibule, the temperature climbing, as marble mosaics flicker beneath your toes. Here, a shallow brass basin sits on a carved pedestal, its water warmed by pipes linked to the main furnace, an ingenious 19th century plumbing feat that kept Ottoman hammams comfortably steamy year-round mainstream fact. You slide out of your outer robe, neatly folding it on a marble hook studded into the wall. Heat washes over you in polite waves, tugging at your skin like an affectionate but insistent friend. The basin's surface ripples when you dip a tentative foot in sending tiny rings outward like concentric invitations. The water carries a faint scent of orange flower, courtesy of a few floating petals and drizzles of attar, an aromatic legacy of palace perfumers. Some fringe accounts whisper that bathers once crushed snail shells into these communal basins to soften calloused souls. quirky tidbit. You raise an eyebrow imagining a snail-powered foot spa, then chuckle at the thought. Maybe that's where pedicures were born. You lower your other foot toes, skimming the bottom, where tiny chips of mosaic glass glimmer through the brass. The sensation is oddly ticklish, like sand rippling beneath your skin at a quiet beach. You lean against a column, feeling its cool embrace juxtaposed against the basin's warmth. A tactile paradox that reminds you of that marble bench in Section 1, where stark contrasts lulled your senses. Historians still argue whether this initial foot soak was purely hygienic or served as a social preamble for gossip-open scholarly debate. As steam curls around your calves, you glance at the ornate spigot, a miniature lion's head carved in burnished bronze. Water spouts from its mouth with a gentle hiss when opened, and you fill your cupped hand, letting droplets cascade over your ankles. The metal's edges are polished smooth by countless years of contact, and you can almost trace finger grooves left by patrons long gone. You joke inwardly that if these spigots could talk, they'd narrate more secrets than a gossip columnist at tea. A nearby attendant, clad in a faded cotton caftan, glides forward offering you a fluffy cotton towel. You drape it across your shoulders, feeling the fibers absorb the basin's warmth. He motions toward a low marble bench beside a larger basin, this one for rinsing. You make your way there, the towel trailing steam like a tiny cloud. Once seated, you lift the kettle-like ewer and pour tepid water over your calves, listening to the soft plash that mingles with distant murmurs of conversation. The changing chamber beyond boasts mosaic panels depicting stylized tulips and vines, symbols of renewal and impermanence. You brush a finger along a petal motif, feeling its faint indentation. In medieval times, some patrons believed these flower designs held mystical properties that boosted circulation. When you absorbed their imagery, quirky tidbit. You grin imagining a Victorian wellness blogger spinning Instagram tales about visual aromatherapy. Adjusting your posture, you catch sight of the next chamber's archway, a rich border of cobalt tiles interlaced with gold leaf. Steam drifts out invitingly, beckoning you forward. Yet you linger mindful of the pace. This arrival ritual isn't meant to be rushed. It's a delicate warm-up, a way to surrender your day piece by piece. A light joke pops up. If only my morning commute had a bacchanal interlude, commuting by drizzle would be so much more civilized. The basin's warmth seeps deeper now. You lift your robe's hem and rinse your hands, then cup your palms to your face, flicking water droplets across your cheeks. The cool contrast jolts you awake for a moment, like stepping into a brisk autumn breeze after a lazy summer daydream. You pat your face dry, noticing how your skin feels softer already, as if you've shed a layer of exhaustion. In one corner, a small shelf holds earthenware jars labeled in Ottoman script. You spy one marked rosemary and mint, an uncommon blend said to sharpen the mind for late-night scholars. Another, with a lute of powdered goat's milk, promised silken feet, according to district bathhouse lore quirky tidbit. You scoop a pinch onto your damp palm and massage it onto your heels, marveling at how fluffy the powder feels. Nearby, a fellow bather chats with a telic, debating whether the next chamber's heat will be mild or inferno level. You overhear? They say the Sultan's personal hammam hits a solid 60 degrees. You quip under your breath, I can barely handle my morning coffee at that temperature. Historians still argue whether Ottoman hammams aimed for therapeutic heat or purely indulgent luxury. Open scholarly debate. Either way, you're curious to find out which side of that debate you'll occupy. You rise and step toward the larger basin, carefully balancing on mosaic toes. You scoop water into the kettle again, allowing it to flow over your legs, hips, and finally shoulders. Steam hisses where water meets hot marble, sending up many geysers of mist. You brush back hair plastered against your nape, feeling the weight of scalp tension dissolve. 3 light jokes float through your mind. You'll need to condition that hair later. Your earbuds would steam up, and you wonder if your bathtub at home would notice you left. The marble floor slopes gently toward hidden drains, and you shift your stance to feel the drainages pull like being ushered onward by warm currents. You pause to press your palm against the wall, noticing the contrast between its ornate tile and the smooth, plain marble of the barefoot pathway. This juxtaposition reminds you of balancing comfort with spectacle, a recurring theme in these steamy palaces. As you lift your towel to blot excess water, the basin's aroma lingers, a soft bouquet of citrus, herb, and musk. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing slowly, letting the scent guide you deeper into relaxation. A personal aside tickles your mind. I could fall asleep right here, but then I'd miss all the fun, or whatever fun looks like, in 60-degree heat. Finally, you fold the towel and set it neatly on the basin's edge. You collect yourself, smoothing robes around your waist, and take one last look at the mosaic patterns beneath your feet. Each tile seems to hum a silent lullaby built into the very structure. You step away from the basin, feeling your body freshly primed, ready to venture into the heart of the hammam's steaming embrace. You step through a low marble archway into a softly lit antechamber where the air shifts noticeably cooler, drier, and humming with hushed chatter. This is the sokluk, the changing room where Ottoman hammams enforced strict separation by gender and social rank, mainstream fact. To your left, a line of discreet cubicles framed by carved wooden screens offers privacy for local women. To your right, princely patrons once selected their niches marked by ornate tile mosaics. As you move toward your allotted space, you notice attendants, often eunuchs, gliding silently between stalls to assist anyone in need. You hesitate for a moment, robe untied in your hands, grateful for the privacy, but also vaguely remembering the slipshod moment back home when you left your keys in your other pocket. A light joke pops into your mind. Good thing I'm not fumbling for my phone here. The gentle click of sandal against tile echoes as you choose an empty alcove screening you from a neighboring stall. A small wooden peg holds your robe and slippers. You hang them neatly, attempting a Zen-level organization you rarely achieve in your own closet. Around you, women murmur softly, voices blending into a lullaby of silk folds and gentle laughter. Some patrons in the 19th century preferred to undress completely in the open soak look before stepping into the steam chambers, while others lingered in translucent wraparounds for modesty, open, scholarly debate. You tug at the tie of your robe, considering which camp you belong to, completely naked or artistically draped. You settle on the latter, mindful of the polite gazes that might slip between screens. The changing cubicles here have star-shaped ventilation holes carved overhead, letting slender beams of light filter down. Dust motes dance like sleepy fireflies in those shafts, catching golden highlights from the brass lanterns. You press a palm against the cool marble wall and take a deep breath, smelling the faint residue of lavender sachets pinned to some robes. A quirky tidbit floats into your mind. Some affluent bathers in earlier times tucked small songbirds into their hair buns to serenade them through the steam, though historians still debate whether these warblers preferred the warmth or the humidity. Quirky tidbit. Your perch feels both private and part of a collective ritual. You smooth the fabric of your wrap and catch sight of a telex polished copper basin glinting at the corridor's end. A hushed conversation drifts from the women's side, two women comparing the softness of olive oil soap versus goat's milk bars. You lean in, pretending to be completely uninterested, though your nose twitches at the promise of creamy lather. Another humorous thought arises. Imagine overhearing my mom gossip about soap brands through a marble screen. Beyond these screens, princely patrons once slithered into their tiled niches, attended by personal valets who monitored steam levels and temperature with oakwood fan paddles. These fan paddles, known as yelpazes, were both practical and decorative, often painted with floral scenes, mainstream fact. You imagine a valet nervously fanning a nervous pasha who complained that the steam felt uncomfortably dismissive. It's notable that historians still argue whether steam regulation was a public health precaution or simply another marker of class performance. Open scholarly debate. Carefully, you unbutton the last clasp of your robe. The gentle click resounds in your quiet cubicle like a distant music box. A faint flush of warmth from the steaming chambers ahead seeps under the screens, teasing your skin. You tuck your robe aside, leaving only a thin, semi-translucent wrap, and step onto the slightly raised marble platform. Your feet make a soft thud against the cool tile, sending a ripple of sound into the corridor. You pause, reminding yourself not to drop your towel, an embarrassing faux pas that would leave you involuntarily hosting an impromptu performance. A telek slips inside your cubicle, mumbling a courteous greeting in Ottoman Turkish. You nod, attempting to sound cosmopolitan rather than someone who can barely order coffee in 5 languages. He holds out a soft cotton towel and motions toward the steam room beyond. You drape it over your shoulder like a cape, picturing yourself as a silent superhero of suds and serenity. A light joke emerges, my superpower soap-centric triumph. Peeking through the carved lattice, you catch a glimpse of women on the other side, one reading a small leather-bound volume, another rubbing sandalwood paste under her arms. The gendered chambers mirror each other in symmetry and ritual, yet the mood differs slightly. The women's side has hushed lullabies, while the men's corridor carries laughter as hearty as a tavern. Scholars still debate whether these separate zones fostered empowerment or entrenched social distance. Open scholarly debate. You decide this sounds like one of those questions best asked with a cup of coffee afterward. Stepping out of your cubicle, the changed light and sound hit you gentler steam trickles and the soft murmur of cotton pressing against marble. You move past patterned screens that bear calligraphic inscriptions offering blessings to those who bathe in purity. The Ottoman script flows in looping cursive, each swirl reflecting Kumkapi craftsman skill. You trace a finger over one inscription that reads, "Purity of body, clarity of soul," though the exact translation may have varied over time. As you turn away, you catch sight of a petite niche filled with clay pipes used not for tobacco, but for gentle inhalation of eucalyptus steam, infused from crushed leaves, quirky tidbit. You remember the rumor from Section 2 about mixing beetle shells into soap. This one seems almost sensible in comparison. You grin to yourself. Eucalyptus Steam Pipes Nature's Vapor Rub Ottoman Edition. The transition from the cool sokluk to the warm sakakluk is a sensory sigh. You feel heat wrap around you, urging you to let go, and the separation of cubicles dissolves as screens become mere suggestions in the haze. Yet, you carry the calm discretion of that private antechamber with you, a subtle boundary between your everyday self and this ritualized warmth. As you step toward the steaming heart of the hammam, you squeeze your towel into a tight roll, determined not to lose it amidst the folds of velvet steam. A final light joke surfaces. If I can keep track of this towel, I can survive anything, or at least the next chamber. You give the telic a grateful nod, ready to embrace the heated labyrinth beyond, comforted by both the privacy you just left and the hospitality that awaits. You step past the last lattice screen and into the sakakluk, the hot room, where the steam hangs thick like an invisible velvet curtain. Sulphurous vapors curl around the edges of polished Gobek Tesha slabs, warmed by underground aqueducts that channel hot water from the furnace below, a 19th century plumbing marvel that turned cold stone into an ever-radiant hearth mainstream fact. As you enter, the heat wraps around your skin in slow, deliberate waves, urging every muscle to unclench. You press your palm against a slab for a moment, feeling a steady pulse of warmth beneath the marble, a heartbeat of centuries-old hospitality. The room's domed ceiling bears star-shaped glass oculi like those in Section 2, but here they're frosted, letting in only muted shafts of light that glow in the mist. Each droplet of condensation collects at the dome's apex, before trickling down in tiny rivulets, rapping like muffled raindrops on the marble floor. You tilt your head back to watch them converge, a silent countdown of moisture that feels both soothing and ceremonial. You catch yourself whispering nature's own metronome and chuckle softly at how easily you anthropomorphize dripping water. As you adjust to the warmth, you notice the way the marble beneath your feet slopes ever so gently toward concealed drainage channels. Each step sends a whisper of water, skittering away, a hushed whisper that seems to guide you deeper into the heart of the hammam. You pad forward barefoot toes, gripping the cool mosaic edges of the slab, remembering your ticklish foot soak in section 3. The sensation is at once familiar and new. At the center of the hall, a ring of broad marble slabs, each wide enough for 2 bathers, rises just a few inches above the floor. You choose one at the edge, perching on its warmth, as though settling onto a sun-warmed rock. A telek appears at your side, his silhouette softened by the haze. Without a word, he folds a thin cotton sheet and lays it atop the slab, providing a barrier between polished stone and bare skin. You lie back, letting the heat seep into your back and shoulders. You exhale, feeling the tension in your spine unravel vertebra by vertebra. From hidden brass spigots at floor level, hot water flows into tile channels around the slabs. You hear the gentle hiss of steam as water meets tile, creating miniature geysers that lick at your calves. You lift an arm and catch the mist on your forearm, letting droplets bead and roll down your skin. The air tastes faintly of sulfur, but is softened by drifting rosewater mist from the neighboring scent rituals you'll visit in section 8. For now, your world is this glowing slab, this cradle of heat. Legends say some patrons once lined the slab edges with woolly camel hair blankets to insulate warmth, an odd import from caravan life that has long since vanished. Quirky tidbit. You imagine the luxury of rumpled camel hair beneath your back and allow yourself a private smile at the thought. Maybe next time you muse, I'll request the camel upgrade. You shift onto your side to survey the room. Marble columns ring the perimeter, their bases submerged by a shallow moat of warm water that serves as a foot bath, just enough to keep splashes safe from pooling. Some hammams featured small braziers loaded with aromatic woods like sandalwood or cedar, drifting smoke into the air. Here, though, the architect opted for a more minimalist design, favoring the purity of stone and steam. Historians still debate whether these braziers were common elsewhere or simply impractical in larger public baths. Open scholarly debate. You decide you're glad not to have hot embers strewn about your ankles. A murmur drifts through the haze as 2 patrons rise from adjacent slabs, alerting you to the room's gentle traffic. You tuck your legs beneath you, careful not to slide off the heated surface. A telek approaches with a copper ewer, offering you a measured pour of cool water to dampen your hairline. The juxtaposition of cool trickle and overarching heat jolts your nerves awake for a second before blissfully releasing them back into the steam. You let your head fall back onto the slab, enjoying how the marble contours support your neck like a custom pillow. A light joke flutters to mind. This is the closest I'll get to a hot stone massage without a spa membership. You grin, internally grateful that no one can see you revering the marble like it's your favorite childhood blanket. the teller glides away, leaving you to bask in solitude for a moment. The only sound is the soft hiss of steam, the drip of condensation, and your own slow breaths. Overhead, you notice tiny cracks in the plaster dome, fine as spider webs radiating from each oculus. You trace one with your eyes, imagining the hands that first sealed it centuries earlier. Historians still argue whether repairs were part of routine maintenance or tied to spiritual rituals of renewal. Open scholarly debate. You roll onto your stomach feeling the slab's heat press into your shoulder blades and consider the idea that every renovation here carried both practical and mystical significance. You press your cheek gently into the marble, letting the warmth melt your worries. The slab's polished surface feels silky against your skin, no abrasive imperfections, just smoothness honed by generations of use. A fringe belief holds that the first drop of water each morning was collected by sultanas to bless newborns, an odd superstition preserved in palace archives. Quirky tidbit. You can't decide if that's fantastical or quaint, but you appreciate the whimsy of it. The heat intensifies, now swirling in currents as the telex adjust vents and spigots. You breathe in slow, even rhythms, letting the warmth fill your lungs. You sense the heat tracing your spine, climbing up your neck, curling behind your ears. A playful thought surfaces. I'm basically a human dumpling in a steam basket. You snort softly, startling yourself in the hush, then suppress a laugh. Steam disguises everything after all. Every so often, an attendant sweeps the slab clean with a long goat hair broom, clearing off excess water and ensuring the surface remains frictionless. The broom bristles whisper across the marble, a ghostly caress that reminds you of the velvet curtain of steam itself. You reach out and let a fingertip glide along the slab's edge, noting how cool it feels compared to the interior. It's a tactile reminder of boundaries heat, here cool beyond. A group of merchants clusters at one end, discussing the provenance of olive oil soaps at their melting points in steaming air. You overhear, "I prefer the soap from Bursa. It holds scent longer." A light joke pops up. Can someone invent soap tabs that never dissolve? You grin, imagining your own late-night product pitch. Historians still argue whether these soap debates were central to Hammam culture or just cheerful filler between scrub sessions. Open scholarly debate. You decide to enjoy them as melodic background chatter. After a comfortable pause, you push yourself up onto your knees and ease off the slab. The warmth clings to you like a well-fitted garment as you step onto the mosaic floor. Water droplets slide down your back, collecting in the slender channels as you move. Ahead, you spot a low arch, leading toward a chamber known for its aromatic cool-down pools. The next oasis in this steamy labyrinth. As you follow the curving corridor, you glance back, once taking in the amber haze of the hot room. It looks like a sun-drenched cathedral carved from stone. You realize you've been here longer than you intended, utterly surrendered to the slow ritual of heat and marble. You let out a contented sigh, ready for the cool embrace that awaits. You settle back onto the warm gobektasia, slab the cotton sheet beneath you, still holding on to residual heat like a loyal friend. A telek appears at your side, carrying two ritual implements, a hefty block of olive oil soap, and a coarse kesa mitt woven from goat's hair. By the 19th century, Aleppo-style soap boiled down from olive oil, and laurel berry is the hammam's signature cleanser, imported along ancient trade routes to scent these steam palaces. Mainstream fact. You watch as he slices a sliver with a small curved knife, and the air fills with that clean, green-tinged aroma that somehow smells of sunlit groves and powdery dust. He rubs the soap between his palms, producing a modest froth of ivory bubbles. The mitt, meanwhile, looks like something you'd find in a rustic farmhouse, rough nubby and determined. You slide your hand into it, marveling at its scratchy texture. Remember how you giggled at the idea of snail shells? In Section 3, this mitt feels like its gritty cousin, ready to buff away more than just your worries. You grin at the thought, scrub away my sins and my leftover dead skin cells, please. The telek presses a dollop of lather onto your chest, and you inhale sharply as the soap squeaks against your skin. The sensation is oddly satisfying, like pulling off a Band-Aid in slow motion, but polite. As you lean into the scrub, you notice the mitt's coarse fibers dragging in gentle rows, revealing new softness beneath. You think of that marble bench in Section 1 shimmering under rosewater mist, and realize you're now experiencing the stone's counterpart, your own partially renewed flesh. As foam drips down your sides, the telek begins the rhythmic scrub, right arm, left arm, torso, thighs. Each sweep of the mitt produces tiny clouds of dead skin that drift away with the steam. It's almost theatrical, an exfoliation ballet set against the backdrop of marble columns and muffled echoes. A light joke pops into your mind. Who knew my epidermis had so much dramatic flair? You stifle a laugh as the mitt glides across your back, tickling more than you expected. Some fringe sources claim that rustic bathhouses once aged their soap bars buried in sand to concentrate the oils, a quirky tidbit that contrasts sharply with the polished luxury around you. You wonder if the sultana of your dreams preferred a sandy soap ritual, or merely tolerated the goat hair mitt's affectionate assault. You inhale again, letting the olive oil scent mingle with rose water and amber you've met earlier. Historians still argue whether the kesa mitt was introduced as a purely hygienic tool or emerged as a rite of purification for elites eager to display their ablutions in ceremonial form. Open, scholarly debate. You imagine dignitaries showing off their scrub marks like badges of honor, politely refusing to reveal how many mitt sessions they'd endured. Yes, I too have the faint outline of a goat's hair glove emblazoned on my arm. You picture them quipping at court banquets. Your telek shifts position behind you, ensuring every inch of your torso receives equal attention. You brace for the next pass, arms folded over your chest, and joke inwardly. I feel like an over-cleaned casserole dish, sparkling but slightly vulnerable. The world outside of this marble alcove fades, replaced by the soft swish, swish of soap and mitt in harmonious repetition. After several minutes, the scrub concludes. The telic pauses, letting you admire the tactile transformation skin that feels as smooth as the idols carved into the domes above. He steps back, allowing you to revel in your partial rebirth. You rub your palms together, feeling that new world suppleness, and realize you're beginning to resemble the mythic glows once sought by those beetle shell vanity treatments you nixed in Section 1. You snort softly, amused that you're glowing by far gentler means. Next, the telic produces a small brass basin filled with warm water. You reach over and scoop handfuls of liquid, pouring them across your chest and shoulders. The lather dissolves, instantly sliding down your torso in silky rivulets. You close your eyes, savoring the gentle contrast between the smooth soap residue and your freshly buffed skin. A light joke scribbles itself in your mind. If only my kitchen sink scrub were this gratifying. The mitt is hung to dry on a nearby hook, dripping into a tile-lined trough that carries water back to hidden drains. You pat your skin dry with a towel, the fibers catching stray droplets like little water-hungry birds. As you do, fragments of overheard gossip from earlier in the day drift into memory merchants debating which hammam served the finest olive oil, soap colleagues whispering about which telak had the softest mitt technique. Even in this steamy retreat, idle chatter flows as freely as the basin's waters. A stray thought crosses your mind. I've spent more time exfoliating here than I have on my own morning routine all month. You chuckle at your personal neglect, grateful for this pampering you didn't know you desperately needed. Underneath the gentle sarcasm, you feel gratitude for these centuries-old crafts, the soap formula perfected over generations, the mitt woven by artisans who never imagined you'd be enjoying their work in a YouTube ramble. Before moving on, you notice a small shelf nearby, holding various natural exfoliants, pulverized walnut shells, rice bran, and even dried pomegranate husks. Patrons could request these specialty scrubs at an extra acche or two luxuries often reserved for those who wore silk robes. You dab a fingertip into the pomegranate husk powder, and the grainy scent of tart fruit tickles your nose. A quirky nod to bacchanalian plants in this austere stone palace. As you prepare to rise, you spot the telic arranging scented oils on another marble ledge. Now that your pores are open, they'll absorb every fragrant note, leading you seamlessly into the olfactory delights of Section 8. You stretch your arms overhead, feeling the subtle pull of slackened muscles, freed from yesterday's desk stress. Historians still argue whether these scrubs offered genuine medical benefits or simply fed the ritualized performance of cleanliness open scholarly debate. In this moment, the debate feels academic. You simply feel better. You slip off the slab and step carefully onto the mosaic floor. Each tile still whispers underfoot, guiding you toward the next chamber. Steam curls up from the grout lines, reminding you that this is a world where water and stone conspire to cradle the body. You pat your skin once more, letting the last beads of water fall, and notice how your senses feel sharpened yet soothed, an odd duality that hammam devotees cherish. Ahead lies the scent ritual alcove where amber attars and rose waters await your attentive presence. But right now, you pause, savoring the memory of goat hair mitt fibers and olive oil soap lather. Like the echo of a favorite song, the scrub here lingers in your skin's memory, promising to carry you into deeper relaxation as you continue this slow, fragrant voyage. You lean back against a warm marble column and watch a telek approach a towering figure draped in a simple cotton shalva muscles rippling beneath sun-bronzed skin. These bathhouse attendants are the unsung heroes of the Hammam, trained from adolescence in a dedicated telecane workshop, where they learned the art of scrub massage and whispered camaraderie mainstream fact. You notice the telek's steady gait feet gliding over wet mosaic like a dancer rehearsing a silent ballet. He carries a rolled cotton sheet in one hand and a polished copper basin in the other tools of his gentle trade. He spreads the sheet atop a nearby slab with a precise fold, then motions you forward with a nod that seems both cordial and ceremonial. As you step onto the slab, he murmurs a greeting in soft Ottoman Turkish, his voice a low rumble that resonates like distant thunder through the steam. You return the nod feeling both awed and oddly comforted by his presence. A light joke surfaces. If I ever start a band, I want him on bass. You fight the urge to grin too widely. Discretion is mandatory in these hallowed halls. Once you recline, he drapes the sheet over your midsection, leaving only your shoulders and head exposed. The telek's hands, large as loaf pans, press firmly into your shoulders, kneading away tension you didn't know you'd been storing since your morning emails. His technique is rooted in centuries-old Ottoman therapeutic massage, blending pressure points with long flowing strokes meant to align muscles and calm the nervous system. Historians still argue whether this method derived from Central Asian wrestling traditions or evolved independently within imperial bath culture, open scholarly debate. Either way, you feel every knot loosen as if it were a well-tied shoelace in need of release. Between strokes, the telek pauses to refill his basin with water from a hidden spigot. You hear the gentle plink of droplets merging in the copper bowl. Before he pours a thin stream over your arms, the contrast of warm water against the cooler sheet triggers a soft gasp, a reminder that your body is both object and observer in this ritual. You wiggle your fingers, marveling at how alive they feel, and joke inwardly, I might start typing faster after this. A faint steam swirl curls around your elbows, carrying with it a hint of lavender oil left behind by a previous bather. Now comes the case mitt, this time wielded by an expert hand. The telek slips the rough goat hair glove onto his right hand and begins to scrub in rhythmic circles across your chest and arms. Each pass carries away lingering soap residue and layers of dead skin, summoning tiny clouds of exfoliated cells into the mist. You close your eyes, picturing those delicate plumes drifting skyward above the slabs. Then mentally apologize to your skin for all the times you skipped lotion back home. A light joke drifts in. My dermatologist would cry tears of joy. You stifle a laugh, grateful the steam masks any sound. As the mitt travels downward, the telic leans in to share a story, a hushed anecdote of a 19th century merchant who attempted to smuggle rare tulip bulbs into the hammam to impress a patron quirky tidbit. You can almost see the merchant tiptoeing with a burlap sack full of bulbs petals poking through the folds like mischievous eyes. The telic chuckles softly, and you realize that part of his calling is not just to cleanse bodies, but to carry forward the lore of these stone halls. Each hushed tale feels like an intimate performance tailored just for you amidst the hissing steam. He pauses to smooth the mitt, then begins a gentle scalp massage, fingertips tracing small circles along your hairline. You sigh, allowing your head to flop sideways, trusting the telic's practiced strength. The pressure is just enough to make you wonder, like joke number 3, if he's secretly trained as a wrestler in another life. Underneath your ear, he applies a few drops of amber attar, massaging the fragrant oil into your temples. The scent blossoms immediately, conjuring warm evenings in spice markets far beyond the hammam's walls. You feel the telic's hands move down your neck and along your spine, applying slow, deliberate pressure to each vertebra. He murmurs another whisper. A traveler from Bursa once claimed these strokes cured his chronic headaches. You tilt your head pretending to be indifferent, but inside you're mentally bookmarking that remedy. Historians still argue whether telic massages had genuine medicinal value or were chiefly a display of lavish hospitality, open scholarly debate. In that moment, it hardly matters. You feel the line between clean and healed blur into soft oblivion. He returns to your limbs, alternating between brisk scrubs and gentle kneading. You notice faint scars crisscrossing his forearms, each one a testament to years of skilled labor. Rather than detract from his persona, these marks add to his dignity, a quiet catalog of devotion to his craft. You wonder if telics ever retired growing old while still perfuming marble halls with their presence. A century-old painting in an imperial archive once depicted telics bowing before a sultan, mitts in hand, awaiting commendation, a slice of history that toes the line between fantasy and reality. Quirky tidbit. As the treatment nears its end, the telic rinses the mitt and basin beside you, setting them aside like sacred relics. He reaches for a small ceramic bowl filled with powdered rose petals and dips his palm into the dusty blend. With soft motions, he pats the fragrant powder onto your chest and arms, allowing it to absorb any lingering moisture. The petal's aroma envelops you, a floral curtain, closing this act of the ceremony. You inhale deeply, letting the scent guide your breath into slower, more rhythmic tides. Finally, he wraps you in a fresh cotton sheet and dips a corner into a basin of cool water, folding it into a makeshift towel. You hold it to your face, savoring the cooling reprieve after the scrub's warmth. The telic steps back, giving you space to rise at your own pace. You push yourself up, marveling at how every inch of your skin feels like new territory cartography remapped by goat hair mitts and seasoned hands. As you step off the slab, the mosaic floor greets your feet with a familiar mixture of warmth and gentle incline toward hidden drains. You glance back at your telic muscles, relaxed now, eyes calm, and offer a grateful nod. He inclines his head a silent benediction before fading into the steam-laden shadows. You tuck the cooling sheet around your shoulders and make your way toward the next alcove, carrying with you the memory of strength tempered by kindness. Remember that marble column from Section 2 with its intricate arabesques and tiny drill holes? You smile, realizing that every architectural flourish here is matched by the telic's human craftsmanship. The two exist in harmony stone and flesh architecture and attendant ritual and companionship. You inhale the mingled scents of rose amber and gentle soap whispering behind you, ready for the next invitation. You slip into a scented alcove where the air shimmers with an invisible choreography of fragrances. Here, ornate copper basins bubble with rosewater infusions drawn from Damascus gardens, a practice that Ottoman perfumers perfected by the 19th century to elevate cleansing into a ceremony of the senses' mainstream fact. As you step closer, tiny droplets of rosy mist drift upward, caressing your cheeks like playful evening breezes. You inhale deeply, imagining petals tumbling softly in a hidden courtyard. At dawn, a telic glides up behind you, carrying a delicate spritzer fashioned from blown glass and brass filigree. He aims a fine mist at your neck wrist and the hollow behind your ear, each puff releasing a whisper of dew-laden rose. You almost giggle at how theatrical it feels, like you're starring in a silent film titled The Phantom of the Floral Bath. A light joke surfaces. Next time, I'll bring a director's chair. On a low marble shelf, you notice several small jars inscribed in Ottoman Turkish. One bears the label amber attar, its oil-deep honey in color. The telic uncorks it and dribbles a single drop onto a copper ladle, then transfers the warm amber into your palm. You rub it between thumb and forefinger, the oil warming instantly, and dab it behind your ears and along your collarbone. The scent unfolds into rich, resinous notes that mingle with rosewater's soft flush, a duet of sweetness and depth that feels both ancient and intimate. Some fringe tales claim that courtiers once favored attars infused with musk harvested from Syrian gazelles, believing a hint of animalic scent could evoke royal presence. Quirky tidbit. You wrinkle your nose at the thought, picturing tiny gazelle cupids lurking behind every rose bush. Still, the idea of musk in the mist gives this ritual an edge you can't help but admire. In the corner, a small burner holds smoldering shards of sandalwood and frankincense. Smoke coils upward, circling you in lazy, fragrant ribbons. You tilt your head back, letting the incense halo above you for a moment, and imagine yourself as a marble statue about to be consecrated. A light joke drifts in. If only my morning routine included a smoke signal. Historians still argue whether incense burners were standard fixtures in hammams or reserved for private sultanic suites. Open scholarly debate. You lean forward to examine the burnished metalwork, delicate floral scrolls that mirror the arabesques you admired back in Section 2. Every swirl of smoke seems to trace those same patterns, as if the room itself is breathing in harmony with its own design. The telek returns with a shallow copper tray holding tiny glass vials of exotic attars, rose, amber, jasmine, and something labeled simply Eastern musk. You sniff each in turn, savoring jasmine's honeyed flirtatiousness and musk's warm animal undertones. You dab a drop of jasmine at your wrist and one of musk at the hollow of your throat, instantly feeling layered scents bloom on your skin like a secret bouquet only you can smell. You lean close to your arm, inhaling, and joke to yourself, I smell like a walking orchid festival. Next, the telek offers a small leaf dipped in misk hambal, a rare musk essence extracted through slow distillation in copper stills, a process that took weeks in Ottoman perfume houses. Mainstream fact. You place the leaf between your palms, crush it gently, and press it to your temples. The green, almost vegetal musk note surprises you, giving the floral symphony a verdant bass. It's like walking through a forest after a rainstorm, but in a marble chamber. A light joke pops up. My shower at home definitely isn't this elaborate. Scanning the shelves, you spot a tiny porcelain bottle marked Kokulu Sabun Scented Soap Essence. A curious phrase from earlier surfaces, remember the beetle shell vanity powder in Section 1. This scented soap essence is no less curious, made by evaporating scented oils until just the aromatic solids remain. You dip a fingertip into the residue and inhale a powdery whisper of rose and amber encased in soap molecules. You tuck a pinch into your robes from a discreet corner, thinking you'll smuggle it home as a clandestine souvenir. A faint laugh escapes you when you think of the odd rituals in Sections 3 and 6, snail shells, goat hair mitts, and now this soap flake smuggling. You made it through a spa day without a single beetle shell, but you can't promise the next one will be so squeak-free. The telek dims the burner's flame and invites you to recline on a heated slab once more. As you lie down, he wafts a handheld Yelpaze, an ornate fan back and forth, sending fragrant air across your face. Each stroke carries a new note of scent: rosewater swirl, amber depth, jasmine brightness, and musk's secret. You exhale, feeling carried on a fragrant breeze. Historians still debate whether Yelpazes were practical steam regulators or status symbols in their own right. Open scholarly debate. In this moment, the fan feels like a magical wand. Above you, the dome's starry oculi diffuse the burning incense's amber light into soft patterns. The scents and the smoke mingle, creating an immersive olfactory panorama that wraps around you. You breathe in slow, resonant waves, letting the perfumes guide you toward quiet reverie. A light joke surfaces. I should hire this fan guy to freshen my emails. After several minutes of sensory immersion, the telek presents a bowl of rose petals, floating in cool water. You raise it to your face, dipping a petal between your lips and inhaling its pure floral essence. Each petal feels like a delicate leaf drifting across a still pond. You smile inwardly, imagining yourself as a secluded gardener harvesting dew. A curious fringe belief whispers through your mind. Some patrons thought swallowing a single rose petal from these bowls would grant you sweet dreams or a visit from a particularly romantic, dream spirit quirky tidbit. You consider it but decide you'd rather not test the dream spirit theory without a guarantee of complimentary rose water spritz. The telic gestures toward a low shelf with slender ceramic bottles filled with sherbet to drink infusions, cool rose sherbets, and sour cherry blends meant to complement the scent rituals. He pours you a small cup of rose sherbet, its pale pink liquid glinting in the lantern light. You sip slowly, the floral taste lingering as a gentle aftertaste to the fragrant bathing. A light joke drifts in. Who knew dessert could be part of a spa treatment? You lean back, letting the amber glow of the burner, the rosewater mist, and the coppery warmth cradle you. The fusion of scents layers like an orchestral finale, each note harmonizing to lull your senses. As you cradle the empty sherbet cup, you feel your eyelids grow heavier. Proof that scent, like sound, can be a lullaby. A final reflection crosses your mind. Earlier in Section 7, you felt the telic's hands align your muscles. Here, scents align your mind. It's an olfactory architecture built on memory and mastery. You inhale one last breath of rose amber mist, letting the room's fragrance tattoo itself onto your memory. When you finally rise, your skin tingles with the residue of oils and your lungs hum with the echo of incense. You tuck the empty sprayer into its niche, careful not to tip over the jars. As you step away, steam parts like a soft curtain, revealing the corridor that leads to cooling pools and aftercare. You take one last inhale, savoring the interplay of rose, amber, jasmine, and musk, an invisible tapestry that will cling to you long after the marble fades. You step from the scented alcove into the hammam's grand central hall, the steam parting before you, like a courteous host revealing rows of marble benches lining the perimeter. Here, daily life and rank converged amid the mist. In the 19th century, Ottoman hammams enforced strict seating order. High-ranking nobles occupied the innermost slabs near the central fountain, while merchants and artisans settled on outer benches. Mainstream fact. You glance around, suddenly conscious that even in steam, there's a social map drawn in stone and water. Sliding onto a cool marble bench carved with interlocking geometric patterns, the same gentle curves you admired near the Göbek Taşa. In Section 2, you settle in, patting the stone beneath you. A nearby merchant and a court official lean close, whispering over chipped mugs of rose sherbet. Their voices are low and urgent, trading tips on silk route caravans, while the pavilion's ambient hiss swells like waves in a hush. You quiet your breathing to listen, half expecting to detect the clink of silver coins hidden under towels, or furtive promises swapped in plumes of mist. Some fringe accounts assert that certain wealthy bathers would slip gold ducats under their marble seats as a sign of prestige or a clandestine tip for a specially attentive telex quirky tidbit. You chuckle inwardly at the idea. Imagine trying to explain an ATM malfunction to your plumber back home. The thought feels both absurd and oddly charming, as though every seat here carried an invisible VIP badge encrypted in steam. Your bench is positioned just beyond the telecane entrance, where telex filtered through to offer scrub and massage. You adjust your posture, recalling how you nearly lost track of your towel in Section 4 here. Misplacing a towel would be a faux pas on par with wearing last season's slippers to a royal audience. A light joke surfaces. I can't even remember my Wi-Fi password, and these folks kept track of seating hierarchies in the steam. Across the hall, a group of local craftsmen cluster near a bronze basin, debating whether the freshly imported Egyptian amber attar trumped the traditional Damascus blend. You catch phrases more linger on the wrist, too heavy on the nose, that remind you of the scent rituals you indulged in Section 8. Historians still argue whether these olfactory debates were earnest connoisseurship or simply theater to display sophistication. Open, scholarly debate. Either way, you smile at the thought that here arguing about perfume was as commonplace as complaining about your morning commute. You lean back, letting the marble bench cradle your spine, appreciating the way its slight concavity aligns with your shoulders. You remember the gentle scrub from Section 6 and feel the residual softness of freshly exfoliated skin against cool stone. A light sarcasm tingles. My ergonomic office chair just wept in shame. Yet in this moment, the world beyond your seat feels distant, reduced to faint echoes outside the carved wooden doors. Nearby, a cloaked noblewoman, escorted by a eunuch attendant, chooses a slab nearer the fire-fed Gobektasha. Her silk wrap glows under lantern light, and she settles with the grace of a swan alighting on a still pond. You tuck your toes into a mosaic channel to feel the warmth cascade upwards, reminding you of your foot soak in Section 3. The sensation is a private luxury, an underwater foot massage, courtesy of ancient plumbing. A telex passes by, offering a gentle nod. You return it with feigned nonchalance, though inside you thrill at the recognition, an unspoken badge that you belong in this steamy tapestry of status. Another light joke floats in. I'm practically royalty, if I can nod convincingly at a telex. Overhead, the dome's star-shaped oculi glow softly, spotlighting clusters of bathers as if they're actors on a marbled stage. You note the precise placement of benches, a concentric choreography, where proximity to the center signified prestige. One merchant slips closer to the inner ring, careful not to intrude, his eyes darting like a chess player making a discreet advance. You imagine the subtle courtesy bows exchanged here, a silent language of rank that predates any modern etiquette manual. Some scholars still debate whether seating arrangements were rigidly enforced by bathhouse staff or left to patrons' discretion. Open, scholarly debate. You muse that either way, the system wouldn't survive a modern co-working space. Imagine reserving seats by status. and getting fined in compliments if you sat in the boss's favorite spot. A gentle chuckle escapes you, muffled by the steam. Your bench mate, a silk merchant from Bursa, leans over and murmurs that tonight's humidity feels ideal for preserving fine fabrics. You nod, recalling the delicate tulip motifs carved into the marble column in Section 2. The artisan's eyes flick with faint amusement. This is our version of an air-conditioned showroom. You grin inwardly, imagining runway models draped in silk amid the steam waves. A group of scholars occupies the central slabs, their notebooks balanced precariously on their laps as they record bathhouse observations, water temperature, soap formulas, tiling patterns. It strikes you as delightfully academic, even here between steam and scrub. The Ottoman thirst for knowledge flows. You lean forward slightly to catch a phrase about thermal gradients, then think, I can't even keep gradients straight on my Instagram filters. Nearby, a young clerk ink still drying on his ledger hands a folded note to an elderly noble, an invitation to a private soiree scheduled after evening prayer. You sneak a peek at the gilded seal, a crescent moon cradling a star the Sultan's mark. The exchange is so discreet that your own business transactions feel clumsy by comparison. A light joke flickers. My group chat etiquette just got schooled. Steam pulses around your shoulders, making the hall feel alive, as though the stones themselves conspire to cradle these whispered alliances. You tilt your head, breathing in the tutti-frutti blend of mint sherbet, rose water, and amber that hovers in the vapor. The aromatic haze transports you back to that moment when you first pressed your palm against the carvings in Section 2, marveling at their cool precision. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the layered scents and muted chatter lull your mind. The social map here doesn't feel oppressive. Instead, it hums like a complex melody, different voices weaving a gentle harmony. You recall the fringed tidbit of gold ducats under benches and marvel at how currency, perfume, and protocol all share space in this tapestry of steam. Leaning forward again, you catch your reflection in the polished bronze of a basin, steam-smeared yet content. You smooth your robes, mindful of any stray folds that might betray your novice status. A final light joke drifts in. If only job interviews were this steamy and silent. As you rise, a telek offers his hand and guides you toward a side exit leading to cooling pools and aftercare chambers, your next destination. You take one last look at the benches now emptied of their patrons who have moved on in the ritual. The marble seats stand ready, silent sentinels awaiting tomorrow's alliances. You step away carrying the hushed cadence of whispered deals and genteel greetings in your bones. In this hall of steam and status, even silence has a hierarchy, a gentle reminder that every ritual, no matter how relaxing, is woven with the threads of human connection. You follow a dimly lit corridor off the main hall, steam curling around its edges like trailing veils until you reach a small antechamber that seems almost secret, its low ceiling hung with copper oil lamps, whose flicker dances across chipped mosaic tiles. This is the realm of fringe beliefs and curious practices, the side of the Hammam where folk remedies and whispered legends found a sheltered stage. By the 19th century, some bathhouses maintained alcoves specifically for these outlier rituals, preserving local lore alongside imperial tradition, mainstream fact. A battered wooden chest sits in the corner, its iron hinges rusted with age. You kneel to lift its lid, revealing rows of small clay jars labeled in fading script: crocodile dung sunscreen, marigold infusion for hushed whispers, sal ammoniac fizz. You pull out the jar of crocodile dung paste, wrinkling your nose at the dry, dense powder within. Patrons once believed that applying a thin layer before sunbathing on rooftop terraces would protect their skin, though that might also explain why so many aristocrats avoided hammam outings on bright afternoons. Quirky tidbit: you dab a fingertip into the paste and lift it to your nostrils. A damp, earthy scent puffs out, carrying a hint of brine and clay. You imagine a 19th century noble stepping onto a sun-bleached balcony face painted with this grungy mask, hoping to avoid a sunburn. A light joke drifts in: beauty is pain, but this feels like more of a dirty chore. Historians still argue whether such crocodile dung concoctions originated in Egyptian lore or were a localized Ottoman invention. Open scholarly debate. In either case, you decide modern SPF is worth the upgrade. Beside the chest, a telic offers you a bowl of marigold petals steeped in warm water. The liquid glows like sunset in a glass, and you sip a cautious teaspoon. You feel a gentle warmth slide down your throat, a suggestion that your voice might soften for the evening, an ancient trick actors used to calm stage fright. Quirky tidbit: you imagine a visiting dramatist sipping this brew before reciting epic poetry in the hammam's hush. Across the room, a faded mural depicts a bath attendant holding a long copper pipe to his nostrils. Below it, a small inscription reads, "Inhale the mint steam for deafened ears." The practice involved heating crushed mint over coals and guiding the vapor through a hollow reed, an odd lung cleanse doubling as an auditory tonic. You blow gently through a reed on a side table. A stray wisp of mint-scented steam drifts toward you. A playful thought surfaces. I wonder if it doubles as a breath freshener. Scholars still debate whether these inhalation pipes genuinely improved hearing or functioned more as social theater. Open scholarly debate. A low bench near a curtained nook holds bundles of dried herbs, sage, laurel, lavender, and something dark and twiggy labeled Ottoman thyme. You pick up the thyme sprig and rub its leaves between your fingers. The scent is pungent green and a bit peppery. Local lore credited thyme smoke with repelling unwanted spirits, ideal for bathers who felt particularly vulnerable in the steam's half-light. Quirky tidbit: you stifle a grin, half wishing you'd brought ghost hunting gear. On the wall opposite, you notice a row of shallow bowls filled with colored powders: blue from lapis lazuli red, from cochineal white, from ground oyster shell. In a quieter era, brides-to-be would mix these pigments into homemade cosmetics applied after their bath, believing the hues granted marital bliss. Quirky tidbit: You swipe a speck of the blue powder onto your fingertip, then dab it like an impromptu eyeshadow. The mineral feel is gritty, but the idea of bridal aqua lids makes you smile Mediterranean bride chic circa 1850. At the chamber's center, a blackened iron brazier holds glowing embers where slip-formed clay whistles sat nested. When heated, they emitted a low melodic tone, an auditory therapy meant to lull bathers deeper into relaxation. You lean close to hear the faint hum and imagine the brazier humming like a vintage synthesizer. Historians still argue whether these tonal whistles were common decorative touches or unique to a few elite hammams. Open scholarly debate. Either way, you appreciate the ingenuity of mixing sound with steam for holistic calm. Next to the brazier stands a woven basket of small pebbles in pastel hues. Patrons would press these smooth stones into their temples or cradle them between fingers, believing the tactile sensation could ward off headaches and promote restful sleep. Quirky tidbit. You pick up a rose-colored pebble, roll it between your thumb and forefinger, and feel a surprising sense of focus. Though that might just be the novelty of it. A final oddity catches your eye, a wall-mounted board clipped with dozens of tiny ribbons, each tied around an incantation slip written on rice paper. Bathers purchase these prayer ribbons, whispering a secret wish before tucking them away in the hammam's walls. Some ribbons date back decades, their silk threads now dust-coated and frayed. You thread a new slip through a ribbon, scribble a wish to wake feeling endlessly moisturized, and tuck it into the board. Wish granted, you joke under your breath. You step back, surveying this cabinet of curiosities. It feels like a museum of human hope and oddity, a testament to how, alongside grand rituals, people crave small charms to make their bathing experience more meaningful. You brush your palm over a worn wooden table and let out a contented sigh, imagining that every dusty jar and faded ribbon carried a story as personal as the marble beneath your feet. A telek appears to guide you onward, a knowing smile in his eye as he nods toward the corridor leading to the cooling pools, an invitation back to mainstream comfort after this brief detour into whimsy. You tuck away the crocodile dung jar and marigold bowl, deciding that some practices are best left as mental souvenirs. The steam parts before you once more, and you step forward with a light laugh, refreshed by the oddity of it all, and eager for the gentle plunge that awaits. You follow the telek through a narrowing corridor, where the air cools in polite contrast to the Sakaklik's embrace. As mist dissipates, you round a final curve and blink at the sight of turquoise waters shimmering under filtered sunlight. These are the Soak Havuzlere, the cooling plunge pools that Ottoman bathers flocked to after their steaming sessions. By the 19th century, hammams commonly incorporated cold water pools not only for dramatic temperature shifts, but to close pores and invigorate circulation. Mainstream fact. You can almost hear the legends whispering in the ripples, a gentle invitation to submerge and renew. Stripping off your damp towels, you pad forward on mosaic tiles etched with star and petal patterns, the same geometry that guided your steps in Section 2. You pause at the pool's edge, disappearing into crystalline water that glints like crushed gemstones. The pool's marble rim is cool against your fingertips, reminding you of that first basin in Section 3, where you dipped your toes. You lower one foot, then the other, and feel a brisk kiss of cold that sends a thrill up your spine. A light joke trickles through your mind. I haven't screamed into cold water since my freezer door blunder at home. Once fully submerged up to your waist, you brace against the chill for a moment, letting it sharpen your senses. A telex stands by with a copper ewer, ladling extra cold water across your shoulders and back. An unexpectedly delightful jolting sensation, like your mind's fog lifting with each pour. A second light joke surfaces. If only my laptop felt this refreshed after a system update. You inhale, tasting the pool's faint mineral note, and recall the rose and amber scents from Section 8, mingling in the steamy corridors. Here, those fragrances feel like distant memories, softening under the pool's clarity. Around you, other bathers drift in clusters, some standing with water to their chests, others perched on submerged marble seats. You notice that a few patrons have fashioned improvised plunge rituals, a sip of chilled sherbet. Before the dip, a sprig of mint held between the fingers or a whispered wish tossed into the water. One fringe tradition suggested tossing a crushed ice cube infused with lavender oil into the pool to scent the basin for day's quirky tidbit. You chuckle at the thought of a lavender thermal bath, then remind yourself that you still have a scented alcove ahead. Historians still argue whether these cooling pools were chiefly medical installations, ancient hydrology treatments, or social theatrics designed to prolong the hammam experience. Open scholarly debate. Whatever the origin, you find yourself leaning back against a submerged ledge, legs stretched out, floating in a gentle lull. The play of light on the pool floor creates shifting ripples that dance like liquid sunbeams, and you feel your heartbeat steady in response. After a few languid minutes, you rise and step onto a slightly raised standing platform where attendants await with fluffy cotton towels. One brushes a towel across your arms, patting you dry, as though saluting a victorious swimmer. A third light joke drifts in. At least here, I get applause for towel drying. You rub droplets from your temples, the fabric whispering against your skin. The towel's fibers absorb the chill, leaving you perfectly poised for the next indulgence. You're guided into a scented rest alcove, a semicircular niche lined with cushioned marble benches draped in plush cotton. The alcove's overhead arch is mosaic tiled in soft aquamarine and pearl white, evoking underwater gardens. Fragrant oils glimmer in brass bowls set on low pedestals, rose, orange blossom, lavender, and something darker, labeled cypress and myrtle. You recline on a bench, feeling the marble curves support your spine. The combination of cool stone and plush padding feels like a cloud with weight. An attendant presents a fine powdered cooling compound called nishasta, traditionally made from rice, starch mixed with rose water, and a hint of crushed mint leaf. Patrons applied it after their cold dip to absorb residual moisture and leave a delicate scent on their skin. You scoop a pinch into your palm and press it into your neck and forearms. The powder sifts between your fingers like soft snow, instantly calming goosebumps and imparting a whisper of roses' sweetness. You inhale deeply and joke I smell less like gym socks and more like a Victorian romance novel. Next, the attendant offers a small bowl of orange blossom oil, a golden liquid that gleams in lantern light. She warms the bowl between her hands, then pours a few drops onto your heels, massaging in slow circular motions. The oil's floral brightness contrasts with the starch's powdery softness, creating a tactile duet on your skin. You close your eyes, letting the scent sweep through your nostrils and tease memories of garden paths and honeyed breeze. A light sarcasm flits through your mind. I wonder if my couch at home supports this kind of pampering. Across the alcove, another bather receives a mint-infused lotion applied to the small of her back, while a third enjoys lavender oil massaged into her temples. You glance at their relaxed expressions and realize this aftercare chamber functions as a private aromatherapy salon. Some fringe accounts claim that Ottoman perfumers once offered custom-blended aftercare scents, tailored to one's birth date and temperament, an esoteric practice reserved for sultanas and poets' quirky tidbit. You grin at the idea of astrologers bottling aftercare oils. Historians still argue whether these scented rest alcoves were part of every public hammam or features of wealthier foundations catering to elite clientele. Open scholarly debate. You decide to enjoy the ambiguity, letting speculation drift away with the steam you no longer feel. Your attendant now returns with a small porcelain plate holding fresh rose petals and crushed cucumber pulp. The rose petals are meant to be tucked behind your ears for lingering fragrance, while the cucumber pulp, when pressed to the eyelids, promises a soothing, depuffing effect. You place cool cucumber bits over your eyes, feeling a wave of gentle relief sweep through your temples. The petals you tuck into your hair, their soft pink edges brushing your neck. You think I look like a secret garden and laugh quietly. Reclining fully, you let the alcove's hush envelop you. Lantern light dances on the domed mosaic above, and the scent of powder oil and petal lingers like a lullaby. In this suspended moment, you feel tethered neither to time nor routine, just to the gentle arc of your breath and the plush embrace beneath you. A final light joke drifts in. If only my bed had this soundtrack and ambiance. When at last you rise, the marble bench seems reluctant to release you, as if savoring your softened joints. You give a grateful nod to the attendant, whose smile is as soft as the powder she wields. She offers you one last gift, a cup of cool mint sherbet sprinkled with rose petals, a final palate cleanser before reality beckons. You sip slowly, letting the floral sweetness linger. Stepping back into the corridor, you pat your robes into place and tuck your towel under your arm. The corridor's warm breeze greets you, carrying echoes of steam and stone. As you reflect on the cooling plunge pools and scented aftercare, you realize this chapter of the hammam ritual was more than a temperature shift. It was a carefully choreographed finale that melded sensation, scent, and social harmony. You glide forward, senses balanced and skin softly perfumed, ready for whatever comes next, whether it's a final dressing ceremony or the quiet walk back into the night. The turquoise waters and scented alcoves recede behind you, leaving only a memory of cool embrace and fragrant hush, guiding you onward in tranquil grace. You slip through a slender archway hung with sheer curtains into a quieter wing of the hammam where the light softens and the buzz of conversation hushes to a gentle murmur. This is the women's helvat, a private chamber historically overseen by eunuch attendants to ensure modesty and propriety, a standard practice in 19th century Ottoman bathhouses mainstream fact. As you step inside, the aroma of rose water mist mingles with faint traces of violet oil, creating a floral corridor that feels like walking through an enchanted garden. Your sandals make almost no sound on the plush carpet runners laid over marble mosaics, the same star and petal patterns you first admired in Section 2, now muted under soft textiles. You press your palm against the cool mosaic at the curtain's edge, remembering the slippery feel of goat hair mitt fibers in Section 6, and marveling at how textures shift with context. Here, your robes are clipped to a polished brass peg and replaced with a loose cotton wrap printed in delicate tulip motifs. You tug the wrap into place, mindful of the layered etiquette that dictates sleeve length, neckline, modesty, and wrap tension. A light joke drifts in. I feel like I'm dressing for a floral poetry reading. Beyond the wrapped low velvet divans line the chamber's perimeter, each draped in pastel silks and piled with embroidered cushions. Kumkapi craftsmen once insisted these divans provide a soft landing for dignitaries who lingered between steam sessions. Another nod to class distinctions that blend comfort with ceremony. You ease onto one divan, its plushness reminding you of the scented rest alcove in Section 11, but here the hush has a more intimate quality. You can almost hear the whisper of a confidant ready to share secrets. In one corner, a lattice screen conceals a small niche where women once exchanged discreet notes rolled in scented parchment and analog DM delivered through the warm steam. Patrons would tuck quick messages about family gossip or secret romances into these scrolls before tucking them behind screens for the intended recipient quirky tidbit. You recall the whispered alliances you observed in Section 9 Central Hall and smile at the idea of hidden love letters drifting through the mist. It brings a playful warmth to your chest. You fold your hands in your lap and close your eyes, listening to the soft swish of gowns brushing against velvet and the gentle tinkle of a brass teacup being set on a low table. An attendant offers you a porcelain dish filled with rose-infused almond paste, a sweet nibble meant to accompany this pause. You take a small taste, the nutty sweetness mingling with floral undertones, and think, this is the best snack break I've ever had. A light joke flickers, I should pack this for my midnight cravings. Historians still argue whether these women-only chambers served as rare spaces of autonomy and camaraderie, or simply reinforced gender segregation under the guise of modesty-open scholarly debate. In this moment, it feels more like a sisterhood. Voices rise in soft laughter, and occasional clinks of teaspoons punctuate whispered confidences. You glance around at women of varied ages, some swaying their feet in miniature marble foot baths, others brushing hair scented with jasmine oil, the same scent you first encountered back in Section 8. A eunuch attendant appears, offering a soft cloth scented with lavender-infused rosewater. You press the damp fabric to your temples, letting the cooling moisture carry away any residual warmth from prior chambers. You sigh in appreciation, recalling how the freezing plunge in Section 11 jolted you awake. Now this gentle contrast feels like a lullaby. A third-room joke surfaces. I might just live here forever. You're aware that eunuchs often served as the only male presence in these private wing, a role that balanced authority with discretion. Their training included mastering a silent gait and a neutral expression to maintain privacy while assisting with dress anointing, oils, or tea service. You almost feel companioned by a guardian spirit rather than an attendant. You tuck that thought away, letting it blossom into a sense of safety. On a low brass stand beside your divan, you spot a small lacquered box holding finely carved hairpins made from mother of pearl. In earlier times, women used these pins not only to secure updos, but also to signal romantic interest. Slipping a pin onto a friend's cushion was a coded invitation to a stolen moment in steam quirky tidbit. You pick one up, tracing its carved vine motif, and imagine the thrill of clandestine glances exchanged in the fog. The detail humbles you, a single pin, 1,000 unspoken emotions. A soft melody drifts from behind a thick curtain, a female musician plucking strings on an oud, her tune weaving through the steam like a lullaby. You lean back against the cushion's eyes, half closed, and let the music cradle you. The oud's mellow notes entwine with the chamber's floral scents, forging a sensory embrace that feels both ancient and immediate. Memory of the loud strategic seating in the central hall feels worlds away as you settle into this intimate enclave. You recall the merchant and noble whispering deals in Section 9. Here, women discuss household remedies, midwifery tales, and dreams of travel beyond the city walls. One woman describes a journey to Bursa's silkworm farms. Another recounts her grandmother's recipe for lavender balm. Their voices form a tapestry of lived experience, a collective narrative richer than any single account. Historians still debate whether women's quarters were standard across all public hammams or limited to elite complexes. Open scholarly debate. You lean forward to sip another bit of almond paste, pondering how architecture shaped these opportunities for community. In the morning, you'll wonder if any of your own gatherings could benefit from such intentional privacy and honor. A hushed ripple of laughter rises as someone recounts a rumor about a eunuch who once challenged a guest to a foot race on the Gobek Tasha, a playful tale that seems both implausible and entirely fitting. You suppress a smile, picturing the scene, two figures gliding across heated marble, racing in polite, slippered steps. a light joke surfaces, I'd crash spectacularly. But at least I'd get applause. Time in the Halvat flows differently. The usual markers, sunlight, angles, phone notifications are irrelevant here. You settle into a final sip of sweet tea, let the last notes of the oud fade, and rest your head against a cushion embroidered with peony blooms. You reflect on the journey from the public hustle of Section 9 to this sanctuary of sisterhood. Here, rituals of dress, shared whispers, and floral scents converge to create a world apart. When you finally rise to leave, the eunuch offers a palm-sized mirror and a small comb, a final touch to ensure each woman departs ready for the night outside. You smooth your wrap, tuck a hairpin into your bun, and give a grateful nod. The lattice curtain parts, revealing the glow of the cooling pools and scented benches waiting just beyond. You step forward, carrying the calm hush of the women's wing in your chest, the memory of jasmine-scented hair, and the echo of quiet camaraderie guiding you toward the closing chapters of tonight's journey. You step into a circular chamber where steam rises in a fragrant haze, the air thick with the promise of healing. Ottoman physicians by the 19th century often prescribed hammam steam baths to alleviate rheumatism, asthma, and digestive troubles, believing that inhaling warm herb-infused vapors could realign bodily humors and restore balance. Mainstream fact. As you settle onto a low marble bench, steam curls round your knees like lazy tendrils, each wisp carrying the faint scent of thyme, eucalyptus, or caraway seeds that a telic recently scattered into hidden vents. You lean forward to cup some of that vapor in your palms, inhaling deeply. The scent is bright and herbal, like walking through a spice garden at dawn, with dew still clinging to every leaf. A fringe remedy whispers through the mist, some bathers once added, goat's way to the steam supply, convinced the lactic proteins would soak into the skin and soothe inflammation. Quirky tidbit. You imagine a Lausch goat herd tending registers behind the scenes. Yes, sir. 2 more pints for the steam, please, and smile at the rustic theater of it. The room's dome is perforated with dozens of small ventilation holes that drip condensation like a gentle rain, maintaining a steady therapeutic humidity. Brass spigots lining the walls allow telacs to introduce medicinal infusions, rosemary for circulation, lavender for nerves, mint for digestion, directly into the steam channels. You watch as a telic turns a spigot and a rush of herb-scented mist pours into the chamber. You lean into it, feeling your chest expand with each breath. A light joke flares. If only my office had a rosemary steam line during tax season. Around you, other patrons recline in semi-recumbent poses, eyes closed, breathing in coordinated rhythms, as though performing a collective inhalation meditation. One woman taps her chest lightly, murmuring that the time steam eased her chronic cough, while a merchant murmurs that the eucalyptus vapor cleared his sinus almost instantly. You try not to wince at the inflammation imagery, but you can't help imagining a miniature construction crew clearing blocked pipes in your lungs. Historians still argue whether these medicinal steam baths genuinely cured ailments or relied chiefly on the soothing ritual's placebo effect, open scholarly debate. You find yourself balancing skepticism and delight. The warmth certainly eases tension, but whether it rearranges your inner humors remains an excellent question for armchair scholars. A telic glides over with a copper ladle offering you a sample of a pungent decoction brewed from dried rose hips and ginger, an immunity tonic patrons sip between steam sessions. You take the ladle noting its weight in your hand and bring it to your lips. The flavor is tart, warming your throat with a spicy kick that feels like a practical exclamation point to the steam's more ethereal work. A fringe suggestion once held that swallowable vapors, tiny inhaled sips of steam-flavored tea, could speed recovery from colds. You inwardly decide to skip that audition for your lungs. The chamber's floor tilts subtly toward narrow drainage grooves, and you rest your bare feet in the trickling water that carries away extra moisture. Below the mosaic tesserae form a caduceus-inspired pattern, a nod to wellness and healing. You squat to trace the tiny tiles with a fingertip feeling the cool hardness beneath your skin. A light joke pops in. Even my tile pattern has better health benefits than my smartwatch. Above the dome's central oculus lets in a thin shaft of daylight, illuminating the steam in ghostly columns. One shaft lands on an ornate brass brazier where papyrus scrolls once hung lists of recommended bathhouse remedies copied from medical treatises. A telic points to a scroll fragment preserved under glass. It lists mint for migraines, fenugreek for digestion, and crushed jasmine for nerve relief. You smile at the idea of jasmine for nerves. Take 2 baths and call me in the morning. A tight circle of bathers gathers near that chamber's perimeter for a guided steam inhalation ritual. A telic positions a flared copper funnel at the base of a spout, directing the herbal steam directly toward a woman's face while she leans in, eyes closed. You watch her inhale deeply, her chest rising and falling in slow, healing arcs. She opens her eyes afterward and whispers, "I can feel my sinuses thanking me." You wonder if your own would send you a thank you note. Some patrons insisted on even more dramatic remedies. One fringe account tells of camel milk poured into steam channels, supposedly a cure for skin conditions, and a special indulgence reserved for desert caravans. Quirky tidbit. You shudder at the image of milk curdling in vents, but appreciate the creativity. You glance at the telic, hoping he won't read your expression, and remind yourself that even the oddest potion here feels more delightful than chemical-laden modern treatments. Historians still debate whether these elaborate medicinal infusions were widespread public offerings or elitist privileges of palace-affiliated hammams. Open scholarly debate. You tilt your head as though interviewing an invisible historian. So was the camel milk steam really a thing or just a rumor to impress visitors? And let the question drift unanswered in the steam. As the session winds toward its close, you notice subtle shifts. The steam becomes drier. The temperature drops by a few degrees, signaling the end of the therapeutic immersion. A telic appears with clean towels and gesture toward the antechamber where cooling pools await. You rise, muscles loosened in a way you didn't know was possible, and pad toward the exit with renewed clarity. Before you step out, you pause in a small niche where a brass basin holds sumac water, a tangy rinse thought to invigorate the skin and brighten the complexion. You dip your fingertips into the pale liquid and splash it onto your face, feeling the gentle stinging tingle awaken you fully. A final light joke surfaces. This is the closest I'll get to a spa facial without a 2-week appointment. You smooth your robe and step back into the corridor, the therapeutic mist thinning behind you like a dream fading at dawn. Your chest feels clear, your limbs lighter, and your mind curious about whether this is medical marvel or just an artfully orchestrated sense memory. Either way, you carry its warmth forward, ready for the closing ritual in section 14, comforted by steam's ancient promise of health and ease. You step from the scented rest alcove back into a softly lit corridor lined with brass basins, ready for the closing rituals that seal your hammam journey. A telek stands awaiting your arrival with 2 small glass bottles, one brimming with pale almond oil infused with Damascus, rose the other, a deeper amber attar spun from musk and sandalwood. By the 19th century, these hair oil treatments were as essential to Ottoman Hammam departures as the kesemit was to exfoliation, mainstream fact. You nod to the telek, who motions you toward a low marble seat beside a basin carved with tulip motifs, the same petal designs you admired in section 2. As you perch on the bench, he uncorks the almond rose oil first. You lean forward and he pours a few drops into your cupped palms. The oil feels silky, warmer than you expect as it catches the corridor's glow. You run your fingers through damp strands, massaging the scented liquid from roots to tips. The aroma is soft and floral. A gentle echo of the rose water spritzes you savored in section 8. A stray thought surfaces. My hair has more products in an hour than my entire bathroom shelf. You stifle a laugh, grateful the steam masks any sound. Next comes the amber muscatar. He drizzles a bead at your nape and another atop your crown, and then guides your hands to distribute it in wide, deliberate strokes. The fragrance deepens earthy and slightly animalic, a nod to those fringe gazelle musk legends you heard about back in section 8, quirky tidbit. You breathe it in, picturing caravan traders unveiling rare spices at sunrise. A light joke flits through your mind. I smell like a sultan's secret weapon now. Historians still argue whether these oil applications were purely cosmetic or served as ritual farewells to the hammam's transformative steam-opened scholarly debate. For you, it feels both a finishing touch and a final benediction. As your hair glistens, you tilt your head, feeling the oil soothe any lingering tension in your scalp. It's a luxurious contrast to the rough goat hair mitt scrub from section 6, proof that every textural extreme has its mirrored complement. Once your hair is luxuriously oiled, the telek produces a small handcrafted wooden comb tied with a silk tassel. Ottoman grooming styles prize smooth, well-coiffed hair, and combs like this one were often inlaid with mother-of-pearl for elite patrons. Mainstream fact. You take the comb and gently work through your locks, reveling in how the teeth glide through oil-slicked strands. A third light joke pops in. If my Dyson vacuum hair kit only did this. You align each strand, secretly imagining a dramatic hair flip that would shame all 21st century influencers. Beside the basin rests a shallow bowl of warm rose water. You dip your fingers into the scented liquid and trace the ornate basin rim, admiring the craftsmanship. Then you lift the water to your face in a cleansing splash, your farewell basin dip. The cool flush of rose water against your cheeks feels like a gentle benediction, washing away any last drop of steam and exhaustion. You murmur, "Goodbye, old me," and the water's soft sigh carries away the weight of your day. A quirky footnote from Section 3 drifts back. Remember, the snail shell foot soaks. Here, a few patrons still press snail shell fragments into rose water, believing the calcium-rich shells strengthen nails. Quirky tidbit. You resist the urge to try it, convinced your toenails will survive on simpler care. You blot your face dry with a plush towel as the corridor's lamps reflect your glistening skin, a living mosaic. Next, you're offered a small mirror of polished bronze edged with filigree. You glance at your reflection, steam-kissed skin hair shining with oil cheeks, flushed with rose water. The Ottoman ideal of well-groomed appearance and inner calm meets your modern selfie standards in one breathless moment. You half expect to see a sultan's portrait cropping up behind you. A light joke punctuates your thought. I look like a masterpiece. If only I had a gilded frame. Behind you, another telic places a final curl of jasmine-scented paper into your robes, a fragrant talisman to linger through the evening. He hands you a small linen pouch embroidered with tulip garlands, containing a pinch of powdered amber and rose petals. For when you need a reminder, he seems to say without words. You tuck it inside your belt, promising yourself to revisit the hammam's calm whenever the world outside grows too loud. Historians still debate whether such scented souvenirs were common giveaways or rare tokens reserved for court-affiliated guests. Open scholarly debate. You decide it doesn't matter. You'll treasure the pouch as proof that ritual can transcend time and routine, a gift from centuries past. Finally, a flourish of fan-like towel wraps and a polite bow send you through a carved wooden door into the waning daylight. The corridor's last echo of dripping water reminds you of the marble fountain in Section 1, its lullaby still humming in your bones. You step into the fading sun senses tuned to silk and stone steam and scent. You pat your robes into place and brush stray rivulets from your arms, feeling scrupulously clean, softly perfumed, and oddly regal. A closing thought drifts in. I hope my couch appreciates this level of pampering. With that, you carry the hammam's final rites into the evening, hair glistening, shoulders unburdened, heart light a living testament to the slow, fragrant grace of Ottoman steam. You step through the carved wooden door one last time, leaving the scented corridors behind, but carrying their gentle warmth in your bones. The fading echo of the central fountain's steady drip still rings in your ears, a lullaby, first introduced in Section 1, and now a distant, comforting refrain. As you move down the softly lit passage, the marble underfoot shifts from warm to cool, guiding you toward the world beyond the hammam's embrace. In the 19th century, departing bathers were often offered complimentary rose sherbet to sip, as they dressed a final gesture of hospitality that lingered on the tongue like a promise of returned mainstream fact. You reach out to take the cup, its chilled sweetness a polite punctuation to your voyage through steam and ritual. Above you, the star-shaped oculi in the domed ceiling cast muted pinpricks of light across the polished stone. Each beam seems to wink at you, a silent reminder that these halls once hosted sultans and caravan traders alike, each footstep imprinting stories into the marble. Before your eyes, the gentle patterns of arabesque carvings first admired in Section 2 soften into shadows, their geometric precision giving way to the warm blur of memory. You notice a faint trail of rose petals tucked into a niche near the exit echoes of the scented petal ritual in Section 8 and smile at how even small details follow you to the door. An attendant in a simple cotton caftan appears, draping a lightweight cotton wrap around your shoulders. You feel its fibers absorb the last traces of oil from Section 14's hair treatment, leaving you both fragrant and gently anointed. He murmurs a brief farewell in Ottoman Turkish Afiyet olsun. May it be good for you. You nod, responding with what little you recall. Teşekkür ederim. Thank you. A light joke flutters in your mind. My Turkish is about as robust as my tolerance for cold water in Section 11. You tuck that thought away, amused by how every chamber left its own linguistic souvenir. The corridor opens into the sokluk once more, but now it feels transformed. The changing cubicles of Section 4 have been emptied, the latticed screens silent. You pause at the marble hook where you first surrendered your robe, recalling how you hesitated between modest wrap and full undress. That deliberate choice feels emblematic of your journey here, a balance between exposure and comfort rituals, both communal and personal. Historians still argue whether these gender-segregated changing spaces were crafted to empower patrons with privacy or merely to reinforce social boundaries. Open scholarly debate. In this quiet moment, you appreciate that they serve both purposes, shielding you from the world outside while inviting you to step into a shared ritual. You collect your belongings, the linen pouch of amber and rose petals, gifted in Section 14, the scented mirror, the stray petals you tuck behind your ear in Section 8. Each token feels like a miniature compass pointing back to a memory of warmth scent or whispered laughter. You smooth the folds of your robe, its fabric, carrying the faint residual scent of almond oil and musk. A third light joke drifts in. I smell so good, I might get tackled by strangers on the street. You laugh softly at your own absurdity, the sound echoing like a feather landing on silk. As you step into the waning daylight, the world outside seems sharper. Colors, brighter breezes, crisper, yet oddly quieter, without the constant hiss of steam. You pause to gaze back at the carved doors, their surface mottled by centuries of palms, pressing prayers and fingers tracing blessings. You imagine the hands of countless visitors from merchants in Section 9's alliances to the women in Section 12's halvat, all converging in this threshold. That sense of continuity hums beneath your skin. You raise your cup of rose sherbet in a silent toast to the marble halls, to the telex whose practiced care guided you, and to the artisans whose intricate carvings held an entire universe of ritual. A fringe memory surfaces the legend of brides applying lapis powder in Section 10, weaving personal charms into their reflections. You consider slipping a bit of that borrowed pigment onto your cheek for luck, but decide to save it for another time, perhaps the next visit. Your robe feels weightless now, infused with steam-born serenity. You slip your feet into slippers, noting the way the leather creases comfortably around toes, still echoing Section 3's ticklish foot soak. The mosaic channels underfoot first guiding warmth in Section 5, then cooling water in Section 11 lie silent, their stories settling into quiet stones. You press your palm against a nearby column, its marble cool and reassuring, a final echo of the tactile contrasts you savored throughout this ritual. A gentle breeze drifts in from outside, carrying a wisp of jasmine from nearby gardens, a natural encore to the orchestrated scents within. You close your eyes, letting the fragrant breeze weave itself into your thoughts. The world beyond the Hammam stands ready, but you linger in this suspended moment between steam and street. You realize you've carried pieces of the ritual forward, hushed anecdotes, scraped skin memories, playful jokes tucked into your skin's memory, and they will color your day as softly as twilight colors the sky. With slow steps, you move away from the threshold. The marble floor gives way to worn stone steps, leading upward back to the city's rhythms. As you ascend, the pounding of horses' hooves and distant calls to prayer filter through, reminding you that life flows on. Yet, you carry a calm core, a still point honed by centuries of ritual. In that calm, you hear once more the telex's final whisper, Alfiet Olsen, now a gentle refrain in your mind. You whisper it back, Alfiet Olsen, as you step into the street. The sun's last rays catch the gold thread in your robe, illuminating the tulip motifs you first traced in Section 2. You smile, realizing that even as this journey ends, its echoes will accompany you like a soft hum beneath your heartbeat. The city pulses around you, but you move through it as one carries a secret lullaby, soft, rhythmic, and just on the edge of sleep. A final light joke surfaces, if only my inbox were this calm. You laugh inwardly, savoring the paradox of feeling awake and yet strangely dreamy. You cross the threshold between past and present, feeling both worlds as one. The marble corridors fade behind you, but the warmth, the scents, the whispered benedictions remain etched into your senses. And so, with a hush of steam still whispering in your bones, you step forward, ready for rest, ready for night, ready for dreams woven from the echoes of a centuries-old hammam ritual. Word count for home turning to. Slowly, the rhythm of your breathing becomes your compass, guiding you away from the marble corridors and toward the softness of your own bed. Imagine the echo of distant drips now merging with the drum of your heartbeat, each pulse a gentle reminder that you are held in stone, in scent, in memory. Let the last traces of rosewater mist cling to your skin like a whisper. Remember the warmth of the gobek tasha, the soft scrub of goat hair mitts, the murmur of stories exchanged in steam. Feel the slight coolness of marble under your fingertips as you drift. Whisper to yourself, Afiet Olsen, may it be good for you, now and always. Breathe out slowly. Imagine the starlit oculi above you closing one by one, leaving only the velvet hush of night. Let the city's distant hum fade into a lullaby. Know that each inhalation carries calm. Each exhalation releases tension. You are carried forward not by rushing currents, but by a gentle, unwavering tide of ease. Let your thoughts soften, lengthen each breath, and surrender to the quiet promise of rest. The marble corridors and scented alcoves may lie behind you, but their grace enfolds you still. Allow your mind to wander through those stone halls one final time, tracing paths of warmth, scent, and whispered serenity, until the last sparkle of wakefulness dimmed. Good night.